Shall we move on then, Scott? Because, like, certainly, as I said in my note review, whatever you'd call that, the words that I said, call it what you want, that this was very much not planned as a trilogy, despite like the ending of the film with like the "where we're going, we don't need roads" comment. That was just meant to be fun, but it was a massive hit right away. So unsurprisingly, sequels were ordered up. But if there's ever proof that it wasn't intended as a sequel, it's having to painstakingly recreate the entire set 4 years later.
Yes. Yes. Following on directly from the first instalment, we make good on Doc Brown's offer to stop unpleasantness happening to Marty and Jennifer, now a recast Elizabeth Shue's kid, in the far-flung future of 2015. Impersonating the junior version of himself, Marty stops his involvement with Griff Tannen's criminal scheme, played by Thomas F. Wilson, of course, with only the minimum of hoverboard-related mayhem. It's just a shame that Marty can't take the antique sporting almanac back to 85 with him for betting purposes. But that's not a scruple that the elderly Biff Tannen has, who takes advantage of a window of distraction to nip back to 55 and give his younger self the means to gamble his way to unlimited wealth, creating an alternate 1985 where he's one of the richest, most powerful men around, and also Marty's stepdad after George McFly's death due to contract negotiation failure. If you're aged between 35 and 55 and exhibit symptoms, consult your GP immediately. Realising what's happened, it's up to Doc and Marty to stop them, while Jennifer continues to remain as asleep as is possible to avoid having to write lines for girls or something. So, off they head to 1955 to nick the almanac back from young Biff, while avoiding the versions of themselves already kicking about this cluttered temporal junction. In what's still in the main a comedy, there's not much point in me giving you much more of a recommendation than to say it remains extremely funny, due again to a very clever script with precision strike levels of recurring gags, sharp rejoinders, expertly paced cutaways, and of course the exuberance and energy that Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd bring to the roles. Like the first, it's going very much for a pop sci-fi feel rather than any sort of serious prediction of the future, although you could make a case for it getting more right than wrong, flying cars notwithstanding. And at any rate, this is much more interested in characters than in technology. Of course, a lot of these characters turn out to be the same actors in a range of makeups, which, for me at least, is more charming than chintzy, although your mileage may vary. I don't have a great deal more to say about this before opening this up to the floor. It's a great sequel that plays with, if not exactly reinterprets the original, the latter act dancing around the plot of the first film, giving a pleasant twist on things that make this a much more memorable sequel than it could have been. In short, it is really, really funny. Watch it as well.
Yeah, this is actually my least favourite of the trilogy. I still enjoy it a great deal. The problems I have with it more is that, before we go into that, what I noticed this time, you were mentioning Elizabeth Shue and like the weird way she's kind of just cut out of the film, her character.
Yeah.
I like Elizabeth Shue a lot, and she's actually pretty bad in this, which is weird. She was recast because the original woman, Claudia Wells, who played Jennifer in the first film, had... Wikipedia just has personal reasons. I don't know if that's raising a family or something else. I don't know. But she didn't want to do it, so we brought Elizabeth Shue in. And this is post Karate Kid. And again, while she was like sidelining Karate Kid, just a couple of years ago when we were talking about that, Scott, on here, that I really, really like her and that. And I like Elizabeth Shue a lot. But I think she's kind of crap in this. And I'm not quite sure why. Maybe just like lacking material.
I think that's it, because from what I understand, Gail and Zemeckis, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner because they weren't really expecting this to be a trilogy. If they had their druthers and could remake the first one, they probably wouldn't have ended it with having to bring Jennifer along. Seems to be what they were saying, because they just didn't fit into what they were trying to do. So she kind of gets sidelined an awful lot in this. So she doesn't really have anything to do in the film at all, apart from, yeah, she's kind of used as a distraction to let someone steal a time machine at one point, and that's basically it. She doesn't really have a function as any agency in this film whatsoever. So I think they would probably have rather not had her in the film in the first place if you can't give anything for that character to do other than just deal with a hangover from the first film that they wouldn't want to have done otherwise. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame for her character because she doesn't really have anything to do. So what do you do with that material? I don't know if you could really do it any better, to be honest. She's not great, but I don't know if anyone could be, given that her first act is basically to look into a gadget that makes her faint for the first hour of the film and then have a couple of lines and then sleep the next hour. So, it's a tough gig.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about her problem. But yeah, that's not her problem, really. The only... Oh, so this is very much it's a film of two halves, really, but for me it's very much a film of two halves in that the future stuff is just, it's too goofy. I mean, there's some important
I can
stuff.
see that, yeah.
Yeah, there's some important stuff. They're like setting up certain abilities of Marty and a couple of other things, and then there's some sort of callbacks to the original. Even like in camera movements too, because there's a scene when
the pan up and him kind of walking through the town square and sort of spinning round, and yeah.
Oh yeah, that one as well. The one I'm thinking of in particular is, and it's like it's kind of subtle too, and I love this stuff. In the diner in the first one, when Biff kind of the camera sort of moves round and you just like see that like behind Biff and it looks like how big he is to Marty, and it kind of almost like he's got taller. Then in the second one, they go to the future when it's Griff, Biff's grandson. He has the boots that put him up like that, but it's copying that same camera move. And there's lots of little subtle things that's really good. But just in general, the future stuff is just too goofy, and I don't like it. It's partly also just suffering from that thing of like future stuff almost always looks like garbage in films because it ages so quickly. And I don't think it ever looked that good even in 1989, but it's just over the top, whereas like you go into the past, you're safe. And if you go into the far, far distant future, you're probably okay. The near future, dangerous territory.
Yeah.
And almost everything in that looks terrible. Like the giant flat screen TVs, they got that right. That's about it. We'll have to have special future food with like miniature pizzas that get rehydrated to massive pizzas and things. And whereas like what I quite liked was the restraint and the design of the DeLorean in the first film. In fact, what I like a lot is just like it's quite mechanical, but it also feel, and obviously that's not set in the future, but it's kind of, it has like a home built look, and it just feels, it's not also like smooth and shiny and Star Trek-y or anything. Whereas in the future, in Back to the Future Part 2, like everything's all kind of curves and sleek and stuff, and it's like, didn't really get that right, did you? Yeah, and a few other bits are just a bit goofy, and also a bit odd, like the headlight tit. Did you notice that, Scott?
No.
Right. When Marty Jr. goes home, like there's that big plasma screen there, and he turns on like 17, well, that's like 6 TV channels at once.
Yeah.
Right. And one of them is a special offer for, I think, there's a company called Bottoms Up or something. Some sort of plastic surgery company, I assume, who's doing a 2-for-1 offer on breast implants. The super inflatable tit and the headlight tit, which glows.
That sounds cool. Yeah. I'll take 2.
That's just weird. So like I said, it's super goofy. Whereas the second half, while it's sort of the first film again, because they're working around it, I need to stop gesticulating when I'm doing these things. You can't see my hands. Nobody can see my hands. Because they're working around the plot points of the first one and the settings and stuff. It's one of the most inventive films I've ever seen. The second half of this is so cleverly done.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
partly through necessity for what they need to do with the plot, and partly just for like fun and entertainment. It's really, really cleverly done. The way it is fitted in, and that it doesn't like wreck any continuity or anything like that of characters or things. It's really, really well done. So I love the second half of Back to the Future Part 2, but the first half mostly leaves me cold. I mean, there's enough fun, there's enough humour in there, and Doc and Marty together are always great. But it's just a bit, that the whole future thing is always just a bit naff. And I'm always slightly uncomfortable watching Marty McFly play his own daughter, or Michael J. Fox play Marty McFly's daughter. That's just weird. I'm not quite sure why that's in there. Otherwise, yeah, it's still really good. It's not one of these films I don't like, so...
Yeah, it's definitely a film where it's hard to watch the second half of this film and think that it wasn't planned when they were doing the first one.
Yeah, it's
so really well intricately done. Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of the mechanical stuff is important there, and then, like as I said when I threw this to you, like they had to recreate the set was built on a backlot, so that was helpful. But
yeah,
they had to recreate everything again twice for modern day Hill Valley and 1955 Hill Valley. Well, actually, and then not to recreate it, but did it again for the future one. But in painstaking detail. That was a lot of work, and if you were planning for a trilogy, you would have just kept the stuff, destroyed it. But yeah, so there's a lot of that, and like Dean Cundy's photography again to get the lighting to match and stuff, and the makeup to get all that look the same. But no, the strength is once again the screenplay. It's amazing. It's so clever. It's so strong. So well written, and it's just I'm in awe of the quality of the screenwriting in this trilogy. It's the backbone of it all.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, isn't it?